Welcome to another exciting new episode of Talking About Stoicism. We were going over the Moral Letters by Seneca, and letter 88 is certainly an interesting one I found because he talks about liberal arts. So let's see where this brings us. Letter 88 from Seneca to Lucilius. Greetings. You ask what I think of the liberal arts. I have no special regard for any of them, nor do I consider any study a good one if its aim is money-making. These are merely marketable skills, useful insofar as they prepare the mind, but not as long-term occupations. One should stick with them until the mind is capable of something more significant. They are our introductory curriculum, not our real work. It's obvious why they are called liberal studies, because they are worthy of a free person. But there is only one study that is truly liberal, and that is the one that liberates a person, which is to say, the study of philosophy. It alone is exalted, powerful, great in spirit. All others are trifling and childish. Or do you imagine there can be anything of value in a study when those who make a profession of it are utterly scandalous and despicable? Our aim should not be to learn them, but to be done with learning them. Some have held that the proper question about the liberal arts is whether they make one a good man. That is not something they claim to do even. Such knowledge is not their aim. The literary studies are concerned with linguistic purity and, if carried further, with narratives. At most, they extend to the study of poetry. Which of these subjects paves a road towards virtue? The identification of syllables, the close attention to words and phrases, the memorization of stories, the rules of versification, the alteration of meters. Which of these calms our fears, removes our greed, curbs our desire? Let's pass on to geometry and music. There, too, there is nothing that bids us refrain from fear or from desire. And if we don't know how to do that, it's no use knowing anything else. The question is whether virtue is the subject these people are teaching. If it is not, then they are not imparting virtue to their pupils. And if it is, then they are philosophers. Would you like to know how far they are from making that their aim? Notice how different all their studies are from one another. If they were all teaching the same thing, there should be some similarity among them. And thus the letter goes on for multiple more pages. And I thought it was very interesting. It was interesting because I make a living teaching psychology, and psychology is or is not a liberal art depending on how you want to define things. To me, it's a social science, and it always will be a social science, but the point here that Seneca makes, I think, is interesting. And a discussion that I often have, that in fact I had with numerous people yesterday, because the institution where I work had an open house, so all kinds of prospective students came in, is what's the point? In a nutshell, what's the point? Imagine I were to come here and I would study psychology, then what's the point? Will I be able to make money? Often it's, this time it didn't happen, but often it's parents who ask that question. So if my kid comes to you and will study psychology, will they be able to find a job? And will they be able to make money? They should make good money. And that's a complicated question to answer, but in a nutshell, my answer is always something along these lines. It's important to make money because we need money to live. It's that simple. No matter how you feel about this kind of stuff, it's just the way it is. We need money to make a living. But we also need to nourish our minds. We also need to do something that we find gives us a purpose. And when it comes to the liberal arts, again, whether you consider psychology to be a part of that or not, the liberal arts give you an opportunity to learn to think about specific topics. They give you an opportunity to examine arguments from different perspectives. They give you the ability to think about human behavior, what people do, and why they do what they do. And how they do that, and how they could maybe do it better or differently. And I find that very important, so I always stress that to whether it's parents, whether it's prospective students, whether it's students who come to talk about career options. You need to find something that you can do that makes you feel like you are contributing something useful to society or to people or to whatever. But if you do that, I think you will find that you tend to become a fairly satisfied person. And I find that if you focus only on, I need to find a job that makes this much money a year, etc., you start to deviate from the path for let's make this very dramatic, because you start to get distracted. And this is in many ways where Stoicism comes in, right? Stoics would say, yeah, because money is a preferred indifferent. All else being equal, you would rather have money than not have money. But without money, you can still be virtuous. You can still do virtuous things. And likewise, with money, you can do virtuous things, but frankly, you can also do a lot of things that are not virtuous. Look at specific celebrities or whatever. Like, people have a lot of money. It doesn't have to be celebrities. Think of billionaires who are not necessarily the most ethical people in the world. ... And I think Stoics would agree with that. They would say, well, yeah, that's because money in itself is neither good nor bad. It's just a thing. And depends on what you make of it. And I think Stoics would also say, as Seneca is kind of arguing here, you look at what makes people virtuous. And I think the liberal arts are very good at examining, I always kind of dislike this term, but the human condition. Liberal arts do a very good job at looking at that and considering it and trying to figure out why people, whether that is people now, whether it's people in the past, have done what they have done. Why? And again, how maybe things could be different in the future, and how you could do things differently in the future. And that, and I will always defend this, that is why I think there is a powerful place for liberal arts in people's education and the way people think. And many other things are very important. Having an understanding of mathematics is important. All these things, yes, it's all very important. I'm not arguing that. But it's not about what is most important. It is about what is important. In general, what is important. And becoming a well-rounded person who is able to understand what motivates human beings, why they are the way they are, I think is a vital skill for people to have. And I like, he said something, sorry, one sec here. Some have held that the proper question about the liberal arts is whether they make one a good man. That is not something they claim to do. Such knowledge is not their claim. And I agree to that to an extent. That's not the purpose, but I do find, and I emphasize that with students too, think about how your behavior impacts yourself and others. So with psychology, obviously that is a logical topic to come up, but think about what you do. Think about how you treat people. I'll give you, I don't want to deviate too far from this topic, but I'm teaching a course in advanced research methods now. And one thing that I've stressed multiple times is, remember, if you're going to be a psychologist, you will be dealing with people. Think about how you behave. Think about how you act. Think about how you interact with those people. If they are your participants, we used to call them subjects, right? And now we call them participants. And that's a very substantial and significant change. That's not just semantics. That has actual meaning. Think about what that means. Think about what that means for the way you interact with people. Think about what you can contribute. And then I really hope this was not a weird rambling story, but again, it's a topic that's very, very dear to me. But finally, it always comes back to virtue. It came back to virtue for the Stoics, for the Cynics, for many other types of Hellenistic philosophy, and this too, it comes back to virtue. Take now what you have learned, go into the world and change it. Try to change it with small things that you can do. It's not about stopping massive things on your own. It's a matter of taking what you have learned to make a difference in your own life and the lives of others. And if that can be accomplished through your education, then I think we should be very, very satisfied and fortunate with what we have done as educators. That's what I have. I say again, I really hope this was not some sort of incoherent ramble, but it's an important topic. And it kind of annoys me when liberal arts are shoved aside as, well, you can do that, but you'll never make good money and you'll never do. Oh, really? Let's see about that. But also think about what is more important, making an enormous amount of money or being a good person. And they don't always go hand in hand. I guess I could have just said that. Could have saved you these 10 minutes. Could have made a 30-second video. Anyway, there you are. Let me know what you think of the liberal arts. And that's all there's to it. Bye.